Hello, my name is Toby Shifsky, and I'm the National Director of Real Estate Education. Big title, but what does it mean? What it means is that I'm responsible for making sure that we, all of Kaplan Real Estate Education, continue to listen to our customers and give them what they want. And I can tell you one thing I know for sure they want: outstanding instruction. Why does Kaplan require an audition or screening before you are hired? Kaplan cannot afford to let somebody train their public speaking skills on Kaplan's customers. Kaplan's customers expect a high level of expertise from the instructors. We are always looking for outstanding instructors to put in front of our customers as often and regular as possible. In order to do so, we're constantly looking for outstanding talent. Kaplan does not have an instructor training program that is designed to turn inexperienced speakers into outstanding instructors. We simply don't have those kind of resources. Kaplan is looking for people that already have hundreds of speaking engagements or thousands of instructional hours under their belt. Once again, Kaplan doesn't have the resources to take a lump of coal and turn it into a diamond. On the other hand, we do have the ability to take a diamond in the rough and polish the edges. Maybe you know the kind of person I'm talking about. The person with no formal speaking experience, but when they enter a room, they command an audience, or maybe they are the life of the party. They have that innate ability to hold a room full of adults in the palm of their hand. Those diamonds in the rough, we can work with and polish into a shining star.
Now, how does that show up? The principles of the Kaplan Principles of Effective Presentations. We have 10 basic principles that are incorporated into this concept. The first is, few people make it to the top without making it to their feet. I mentioned that in the introduction. If you want to be a leader in the industry, you're going to stand up and speak. Few people make it to the top without standing on their feet. Get up and speak. If you want to stand up and speak, you are a leader. And you're the most important person that we have in this organization, because our foundation is based upon people who have the ability to present and to present effectively. If you want to transfer information, man, put it in writing. But if you want to motivate or persuade, you need to be able to say it, and you need to be able to say it with impact. Now, there are situations in which all we want to do is transfer knowledge. No question about that. You're in the mortgage business, interest rates just changed. Let's have a meeting, or I'll send a memo. This changed. This is fact. This is information. But in our world, very seldom is all we want to do to share information. Very seldom all we want to do is transfer knowledge. What we want people to do is something different. What is it that we want them to do as a result of your presentation? If what you want to do is transfer information, I say take the 150 pages and send it to the people, let them read it. What you want to do is motivate them, captivate them, persuade them to do something as a result of this information. What's the benefit? If all you can do is think of facts and you can't think of benefits, then you're wasting everybody's time. I think we've all grown beyond the point where we need somebody to read to us. I think we've all grown beyond the point where our job as the audience is to sit and listen to someone pound information into our head. The question I ask to a presenter before they go in and they tell me what they're going to say, what they're going to do, is so what? And the so what is so what from the audience's perspective. Because if you're going to present something that has no benefit to them, why are we wasting our time? Speaking is more than saying words or giving a speech. It's a dynamic, interactive form of communication. Many of us think in terms of writing down what it is that we're going to say and coming up with our outline and so forth. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not saying don't prepare. I'm saying you need to prepare. But when you're doing your presentation, it's not about standing in one place and giving a speech. It's communication, it's interactive, it's give and it's take. If you want to make an effective presentation, it's not giving a speech in our world. And as I said, there are times when a speech is an effective method of presentation, but not in 3 3/4 hour segments. If you have the ability, by the way, and if any of you in the room are wondering, hey, I wonder if I really have what it takes to be an excellent presenter, understand that if you can communicate to a small group or communicate one-on-one, you can communicate to thousands. It's just a little bit more exaggeration. It's just a little bit more technical help that you need from voice amplification and visual props. But you do have the ability to do it. The purpose of business presentations is to persuade somebody to do something. What is it you want them to do as a result of your presentation? Next, orient everything from the audience's perspective. In order to get what you want, you need to give them what they want. Now, I'm not naive enough to say that the customer is always right. But what I'm saying is that if you organize it from the perspective of the audience, chances are great that you're going to succeed. What you say has to be believed in order to have impact. Think of what it is that you've learned. If you have a technical topic to try to teach, think in terms of a way to make it simple, to make it understandable. It has to be believed. People will look around the face as from a presenter standpoint, then they're down at the feet. They'll be looking at the shoes. What kind of shine do you have on them? People can tell a lot about you based upon your personal dress and grooming. Dress appropriately. Our position is this, that as a presenter, you're a role model, you're a leader. So there is an appropriateness. I'm not saying that you have to be wearing a certain level, except you match the level to look like the leader in that industry. And you'll talk to the managers if you're part of the team here at Kaplan about that. And then finally, and then we'll take a break, express likability with a smile on your face and warm gestures. You know, it's trite to say smile and the whole world smiles with you or smiles back. I think it's trite to say. I can't remember exactly what they say. But the fact of the matter is it's true.
What is the expectation on class day for Kaplan instructors? As a Kaplan instructor, it is expected that you have prepared for the day's teaching by reviewing all content for that day before coming to class. Instructors are expected to arrive at the classroom facility 30 minutes before showtime. Some locations will require you to unlock the doors and open the facility. I can tell you there will be some students already there waiting for you. When it's class time, and we do start every class on time, and the curtain goes up, you put on your Superman or Superwoman cape, it's showtime. Manage the content, hit every one of your required breaks. Most states require that you do not skip your breaks in order to save them for the end of class so you can let your students out early. Kaplan is in the business of regulated education. With that comes strict rules. Letting class out early or skipping required course components is not acceptable and can be grounds for dismissal. At the end of the day, you are to collect any required components from the students, be it assignments, exams, evaluations. Make sure your students have exited the building, shut down any classroom equipment, turn off the lights, and lock the doors. That is pretty much it on class day for a Kaplan instructor.
Now finally, after all of the principles we've talked about, and after looking at your visuals and looking at the purpose, process, payoff, we've spent 80% of our time, a little higher than 80% of our time, talking about preparation. It's all we've done so far is talking about preparing your presentation, because that is the expert. That is the power of the presentation, is that you prepare yourself and you prepare the material. The three key factors of the presentation are the I factor, the energy factor, and the fear factor. All right, so talk about the I factor. The first step, when you're going to connect, when you're the presenter, and again, I don't care where this is. I don't care if it's at the Rotary Club. I don't care if it's in front of the TV camera. I don't care if it's in front of a classroom. You need to choreograph what people see. Think about the eyes. What you want to do is be able to speak a visual language. People have different ways of learning. You all know that. You know, some are auditory, some are sensory. They have different ways. And we want to appeal to all of those. We want to be visual. You know, when you think in terms of that factor, to speak a visual language, here's what I think of. What I hear, what I see, what I hear, I forget. You agree with me? Maybe it has to do with age, I'm not sure, but in one ear and out the other. If you want to think about what you heard and be able to interpret what you heard, remember what you heard, very difficult. By and large, what I hear, I forget. But what I see, I remember. The visual makes the difference. Now I'm going to take that a step further and say, what I do, I understand. So if you want to be forgotten, just keep talking. If you want people to remember, have them see it. And if you want people to really understand, find a way to get them doing it. Find a way to get them involved. If you remember those principles, you will be creative in ways to accomplish those objectives. And we don't want in one ear and out the other. What we want is to change the way people do things. So think that visual language, though, when we talk about what I see, I remember. What is the memorable vision that people have? Dress in business attire. We talked about the whole Barry Strands thing and dressing up. If you're going to be an instructor at Kaplan, you're going to arrive 30 minutes early. If you're going to be presenting anywhere, I think you need to arrive 30 minutes early. So many things can happen, especially we've got weather, we've got traffic, we've got all sorts of things. What that means is so you're ready. That's all it means. And so you take into account all the things that can go wrong, and you're ready to go because the guy from Bawabik's already going to be there. Double check the supplies and equipment. Again, that's all a matter of preparation. Get your name on the whiteboards. A word about that, being an instructor here, is that we're a safe haven. We have a hands-off policy. No recruitment, no solicitation. This is our pond. Nobody else fishes in it. Okay, that includes instructors, that includes managers, that includes real estate, insurance, appraisal, I don't care what it is. This is not an opportunity for people to try to build up their own business, if you will, by handing out brochures and that type of thing. On the other hand, this is the greatest job in the world if you're a professional in the field because people look up to you, they want to find out who you are, they have a great presentation from you, they'll track you down for sure. Here's the way I think about it, is when people walk into the room, can they tell instantly that they're in the right room? Especially if you have 3 classrooms around, can they walk in and can they take a look at the front and know they're in the right room? What's up on the screen, what's up on the whiteboards? You know, the first thing that people announce when you get on the plane is, find your seat, and this is flight 724 to Albuquerque. You know, there's a reason that they remind you of where you're going, because I'm sure that people have said, oh my, this is going to Albuquerque? I was going to Aberdeen. I'm in the wrong room. I'm in the wrong airplane. List the schedule on the board, including breaks, because people want to know that they're in the right room, that they're going to the right place. And the most important part is the breaks. When are you going to be done? When am I going to take a break? Because then people can relax. People can just relax, say, okay, I'm not going to get stuck here. I'm going to be able to take a break. I'm not going to have to worry about interrupting the class. I know that I'm going to have a chance to get up. I'll be able to go to the restroom, do messages, whatever it is that I want to do. Upright posture and ready position. You've got to have a physical presence. There are people who like to be casual, and I don't have any problem with that, but there's a significant difference between the energy that's felt in the audience if we're back here like this, and if our body language says that we are like so, and we're moving back rather than having good posture, moving forward, that shows energy right there. People who come in to present who say, boy, it was a long night last night, I say, well, that just means it's going to be a long day today. I wish I wasn't here. Don't give me your excuses, I could care less. Apparently I'm not important enough for you to pay attention to what you're doing, so I'm here because I have to, and I'm spending the money, and then somebody is up there telling me that they were out too late last night. Doesn't make sense. You don't finish the story. The finishing part of the story is that 13 schools, I don't know where those other 12 are now, but they're not in the real estate education business. There are lots of reasons for that, but these are the reasons that we're talking about here. It has to do with the whole picture and the whole package, that you become number one by walking the walk and talking the talk, and not by getting up in front of people and making excuses. Have a physical presence. That physical presence is going to make a difference. Exude the confidence. Make friends with the back row. I always make friends with the back row. If we've got a big group, Man, those back row people, a lot of them will come early just so they can sit in the back. That's the power position, man, because they can see everything, nobody can see them except me. So I just want them to know I got you, okay? Nothing bad, I'm not giving you a negative idea, but I'll always go back. My line is, hey, you know, if this table was another 30 feet back, would you be sitting at it? They always say, yep, I'm just a back, I just that's, you know, I just like to do that. I say, me too. That's the way I am. I like to sit as far back as I possibly can. And that's just to make connection with them. Maybe I'll give them something to do. Maybe I'll give them an assignment of some sort. Maybe I'll have them be the monitor for attendance or some such thing. Get them involved some way. We can always tell what's going on up front by taking a look at the back of the room. There's a little window back there. We can take a look, see what's going on in the back of the room. We can tell by looking at the back of the room what's going on up front. It's the easiest thing in the world. If they're back there chit-chatting or if they're reading Wall Street Journal, we know that what's going on up front isn't very good. Smile a warm smile, use open gestures as you lay out the ground rules. Start on time, answer why they should listen to you. What's your expertise? What's your background? You can't just walk into a group and say, hi, here's my name, and now, let's get started, and just start moving into your content. You can't do that. You got to give people a reason to listen to you. Why should I listen to you? What's your background? From what perspective should I evaluate what I gain out of this presentation? For example, just tying back to this presentation, what I want to have you, the way I want you looking at me as the presenter is not that this is the model of the great presentation. I don't want you sitting here and critiquing and saying, boy, you made a mistake there. Or, you know, what I want you thinking about is what you can gain from my experience. That's really what I want you thinking about there. And that's why I talked about that I'm representing the students, listening to the students and looking at their evaluations. Make sure everyone's checked in, refer the class to the back page. When we're doing continuing education course, we don't have it here, but the back page is announcements, and then on the flip side is the evaluations. You want to let people know in advance how you're going to wrap up and how you want them to evaluate your presentation. And by the way, we really do want to have evaluations. We really do want to get their feedback. I had one individual who was a very good presenter, outstanding presenter, but he hated having someone criticize him. He just hated if somebody wrote something negative. And I go, I love it. I mean, I don't like somebody not liking it, but I love that they give us the feedback. How can you improve? You know, businesses around the country tell their employees to ask for feedback, but you can tell they don't really care. You agree with me on that? They don't really care. Hey, you know, here's a survey, you know, fill that thing out. Or the servers, that's the one right now. How's everything tasting? You know, that kind of thing. And what I judge how I'm going to answer that based upon whether I think they give a rip or not. You know, if they give a rip, I'll give them legitimate feedback. But if they don't, I'll go fine. I'll go, yeah, it's fine. And then I'll vote with my feet. The feedback will be, I'm never coming back here again. And I'm going to see if I can influence 10 other people to never come back here again. Now, if you cared, I would tell you what I think, and then I would hope that you'd do something about it, and then I'd be a supporter. Now, we really want to get that feedback. And when I had a great instructor who I found out took one of the evaluations and threw it in the wastebasket, because I got a call from a student, and that student said, did you read my evaluation that I had about da-da-da? And I said, I read every single evaluation. I didn't see that comment. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I wrote it down and it got turned in. And then I find out that it went into the wastebasket. That was not a very pleasant phone call that instructor got from me, because I had to tell him that that's not his evaluation, that's mine. And you share that information because that's the way we can recover. That's the way we can learn. That's how we can do an outstanding job. That's how the most surprised people we have, well, not the second most surprised customers we have. The first most surprised customer is the one who writes something negative and gets a phone call. And the phone call is, hey, is this Jim? Yeah. Hey, I saw your evaluation, and what I want you to know is that your course was free, but I'd like to just ask you to give me 5 minutes to give me information so I can make sure that that never happens again. Because when you said that that class was worse than childbirth, I'd really definitely we didn't build our reputation based upon him. Yeah, that's right, that's right. Worse than it sounds like childbirth might be. Worse than I've heard childbirth. That's funny. And they go, yeah, well, you don't have to give me my money back, but here's what happened. That's kind of the way they approach it. The ones that are most surprised are the ones who didn't sign their name and they get a phone call. Hey, this is Rick at ProSource. Yeah. Yeah? Well, did you write an evaluation? Did you attend such and such a class? Did you write an evaluation on it? Well, yeah. Well, I found you because I checked the handwriting. You know, everybody signs their name and so forth, and I found 4 different people that I thought it could have been based upon the handwriting, and I'm glad I found you because you're the most important person, and this is the most important call I have today. And that is, I want to spend as much time as you're willing to share with me to see to it that we are able to change and never have this happen again. Okay, so anyway, that was the evaluation form. That's what we're talking about there. Get the feedback. The second key factor is the energy factor. The energy factor distinguishes the memorable teachers and those that are not memorable, and the best communicators in the world that are two-year-olds. People can tell whether you love what it is that you do or not. They can tell the difference instantly. And they can tell that you don't love what you're doing, and that makes it less enjoyable experience for them. The energy factor is a key. Bert Decker says if you want to be memorable and persuasive, the primary variable is not your words, it's your behavior. What I like to say is that if you love what you do, send a message to your face. Send a message to your face. You might not be your best day you've ever had. But man, there are a lot worse things you could be doing than even making a few bucks standing up in front of a group and having the ability and the opportunity to look in their eyes and be able to give them something, have them walk out with something of value. So use your voice. If they can't hear you, they've got a tough time. To convey that you believe in what it is that you're saying. Get started with a bang. Don't make excuses. Don't suggest anything negative. And that's why, Amy, I want to be just careful about how we frame. If we haven't seen the group before, if we haven't had the experience, I just want to make sure we frame that in such a way that people don't get negative expectations. So that's where you've got to be careful about it. Don't suggest anything negative. You know, if you're doing mandated education, it's easy to kind of cop out. Let's face it, you know, the deadline is June 30th, the deadline's October 31st, and deadline's October 31st, today's October 30th. You know, it's not typically the happiest group in the facility. They've had 2 years to get their education, and they might be sitting here. Now, the average person will stand up and say, hey, you know what? How many of you really want to learn something? I know you're here to get hours. You know, maybe we'll cut a couple breaks. We'll take a short lunch, and we get out of here. Class supposed to run till 5. What do you say we get out at noon? Or what do you say we get out at 3 o'clock? Something like that. And you know what? People will say, yeah. They really will. They really will. They'll say, yeah. And then the instructor will say, yeah, well, they were happy. They were great. They gave great evaluations. Well, you know what? This isn't a democracy. Yeah, they voted to take a shorter lunch break. I don't give a rip what they did. The schedule says we're running this time to this time. That's what we're doing. This is mandated education. This is not make it up as you go. People have to be here. So what you need to do is understand that don't go up there and make excuses. Find a way to grab them and hook them. You're not going to succeed every single time, but find a way to get them involved so that they have a successful experience. Don't start out by making excuses. What we saw the other schools doing is they stand up and opening a licensing course and saying, in real estate at that time, saying, well, we're going to be covering a bunch of stuff here it's not really going to do you any good in the real world. It's not real world stuff at all. It's just going to be, you know, we'll talk about some laws and stuff, but it's stuff we have to cover. So we'll just get through it and get done with it. Man, oh man. That's why they aren't around anymore. Who wants to pay money to go there and have the first thing they say is that this is a waste of time? On the other hand, you come in and say, hey, you know what? You're going to learn Three things are going to happen in the next 30 hours we're going to spend together. You're going to learn more in the next 30 hours you've ever learned before. We're going to cover the equivalent of a 3-credit college course between now and 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. You're going to have fun. You're going to enjoy this experience. You're going to be prepared for success on the exam. Here's the content we're going to cover. We need to get work right now. And there's a significant difference, wouldn't you agree? So that's the energy factor. It really is. It's thinking about how to convey that you love what you do and how to get that buy-in, how to get that hook out there. Present the objectives with confidence. Don't stand up there and say, well, hopefully. All right, well, if you're not sure about it, I'm sitting in the audience, I'm starting to get worried. Don't get me worried. I pray that you succeed. Don't get me worried, because now I got to figure out what I'm going to do here. Let me relax. Let me know that I'm in good hands. You know, you're the pilot, that's fine. Just let me sit here and worry about going on this flight. I don't want to have some pilot say, well, hopefully we'll get off the ground. You know, hopefully we won't be overweight. Hopefully the landing gear will go down. Come on. Of course, hopefully. I've never said that before. I like that. Avoid monotone. You had that listed over on the board somewhere else too. Change your vocal tone and richness. Always repeat the question. Repeat, rephrase if you have to, reinforce. I don't know if you've noticed it here. Everything that anybody has said is repeated back. Because, you know, how can you expect that if Deb, you know, if she's asking me a question, or Amy, you're asking me a question as you just did, I mean, you don't have to speak to the back of the room, but I'm speaking to the back of the room. If all I do is answer the question, they don't know what we're talking about. Now I now have a dialogue with 2 people instead of a dialogue with 97 people. So people will quit. If I just start answering a question, they'll quit. On the other hand, I say, hey, that's a great question. In fact, I bet other people have had that question. And that question, it really relates to what we talked about a little while ago. And remember we said blah, 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 blah. That's great. Now, my opinion is, by the way, that every question deserves an answer in our
Hi, Ted Highland again. Previously, we spoke about the important role that instructors play in identifying and capturing student objectives. If we were to attempt to sum up what that consists of in a single sentence, it would go something like this. Our customers are looking to us to provide them with important and valuable information, and they want to enjoy themselves while they're getting it. Let's take a closer look at each of these student outcomes. When customers pay us for our education products, most of the time it's with an ultimate outcome of passing an exam, either a state or a national qualifying exam to obtain a professional license, or a final exam on a continuing education course to maintain a license. The information we communicate in our classrooms is extremely important to our customers. They tell us that their primary objective is to pass an exam. Therefore, the content of our courses must be absolutely focused on exam content. The way we express this concept to our instructors is, if it isn't on the exam, why are you talking about it? The single largest complaint to regulatory authorities on regulated courses is instructors telling stories about their experiences that don't have anything to do with exam content. We believe that instructors' real-life stories can be used as an important part of creating a student experience that may lend impact to a test point, but only if it relates to that test point. This can result in a student's ability to recall the information later when they're doing the exam. Because we do this and do it well, we achieve pass rates at as high as 94% on state regulatory exams. The information we provide has to be not just important information, it has to be valuable as well. If a customer of ours does not pass an exam, they may not be able to fulfill their career objectives and even earn a living. Additionally, we believe our course content and presentations can enable them to make a greater livelihood than if they get their education elsewhere. You see, we don't just teach to the test. We provide people with information that enables them to succeed in their chosen field. the information they get from us must be valuable information. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, our customers deserve for the money they pay to have an enjoyable educational experience while they are with us. The way we measure customer satisfaction is through evaluations. Every single one of our customers is given an opportunity to provide us with feedback on their experience, and we value that feedback and respond to it. We're constantly striving to do what we do better based on what our customers tell us. That's something we expect of our instructors as well. We are, after all, an education company, and we're constantly educating ourselves as well as our students.
My name is Rob Van Kranenbrock. I'm the Vice President of Operations and the Director of Human Resources. As a Washington Post company, Kaplan has strong principles guiding how we do business and how we treat each other, our customers, and those we come into contact with in our business. We believe in doing the right thing, and we want to make sure that everyone working at our company understands the high priority we place on proper conduct. Everyone who works here is subject to a code of conduct. It does not cover every potential situation, but it does establish general principles and provides guidance of where to go for answers to questions. If you're in doubt, ask. You can always go to your manager or the HR team. We also have what we call a 60-minute rule. As an instructor, you are required to report any incident or event that could cause financial, reputational, or legal liability to the company within 60 minutes of its occurrence. Examples of reportable events include any event that could result in injury or harm to a student or staff member, damage, theft, or vandalism, any oral or written threat of a lawsuit or receipt of a legal process or lawyer complaint letter, any report, observation, or allegation of wrongdoing on the part of any of Kaplan employees. Of course, attempting to cover all these incidents and events that could occur would be impossible. But again, when in doubt, report it. Seemingly unimportant, isolated matters may foster larger issues. In addition, Kaplan has an escalation procedure. This procedure outlines how to escalate issues that students may raise. Specifically, issues that could question our integrity, regulatory compliance, or interfere with a student's learning experience. Please review this procedure so you can contact the appropriate resource in a timely manner. We want you to know that we appreciate your cooperation. We can only provide the best service to protect our students, our employees, including our instructors, and our business when we are promptly notified of incidents or events. We take pride in working for Kaplan, and we are sure you will as well. Thank you for your time, and now I'll return you to stand up and speak.
And that first step is, it's almost like, it's a new experience to have to think through it in those kinds of terms. And it usually is a step that if people have prepared presentations before, it's one that they have sometimes done kind of intuitively, but yet to really go back and to cut it down to, a couple of sentences, why are we here? What are we going to do? And what's in it for them is some hard work. And it really gets you focused on what the expanse of the presentation is, what you'd call get your arms around it. And then from that, what you're going to do then is, after you've done that, you can set your materials aside now, get back into the book. You've got the other steps which we overviewed, and of course we're not going to do those here today because you're going to need resources in order to do the balance of this and fill out the balance of the steps. But once you've put that together, you've done the purpose, process, payoff, you've developed the main points, you've figured out the transitions and what kind of order and what they're going to do and what kind of activities they're going to be involved in. You've prepared your opening, you've prepared your closing, you've got a great way to wrap this thing up. Now you need to go back again and stop before you go in and do that presentation and ask yourself this question. After all is said and done, will this presentation motivate my audience to do what it is that I'm asking of them? Will that be accomplished? And I'll promise you that by going through that step, you will make changes. Because what happens is that you start out on a road to Abilene and you end up sometimes going toward Albuquerque instead. That you get into it and it starts flowing and flowing and flowing, and all of a sudden you miss the point. You miss what is it that you want them to do. Now, visual aids. What kind of visual aids are you going to use? Here are some rules for visual aids. First one is make visual aids as factual as possible. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about being a teacher, if you will. If we're talking about educational, keep the visuals factual. The visuals are not the presentation. One of the things that I've seen happen as we've increased technology and we've had access to more technology for presentations is that the overall quality of our presentations, I think, the visual quality has gone down. Primarily because we have a lot of presenters who don't know how to use it. They don't know how, they haven't practiced with it. They don't organize the visuals in a way that enhances them so that it enhances the experience. We also have come up with a concept that I call death by PowerPoint. Okay, I heard some chuckles, so some of you know what I'm talking about. Let's take a 600-page book and let's put it on the screen. That doesn't enhance the presentation. Taking a 600-page book and putting it on the screen, that's what a lot of online courses are. It's just, it's just words. It's just a book on a screen. You flip through the pages of it. The PowerPoint presentation should enhance it, should be factual and should enhance. Make sure each aid conveys only one idea. One of the keys here is control. One of the keys is control. And another negative comment that you had was lack of control. The students, sometimes the inmates are running the reformatory. So you need to maintain control. Now, see what just happened here. Okay, we're talking about visual aids. Where are we right now, Deb? Where are you?
Well, I'm waiting for the last.
Yeah, okay. Marianne, where are you?
I was distracted by all those that just came up at once, so I'm trying to read them all.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. The point was made. That's the example. This is not a visual aid. This is confusion. This is wallpaper. The concept of revelation says that one point at a time. We're going to reveal what we're talking about, because here's the fact. People are in and out. The audience is in and out. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I am. You will be if you haven't had a lot of experience. They're in and out. They're not with you the whole time. They're really not. They're checking about it. You can't sit here. The audience can't sit here and focus for that period of time. You've got all sorts of other things going on in your lives. You come in, you come out. All I care about is that when you come back, we're all in the same place. That's all I care about. I know you're going to leave me. I just want to make sure that when you come back, you're not flipping through the pages and trying and going, where are we here? And if all I did is flip this up and said, now we're going to talk about the 7 rules of visual aids, when you check back, you don't know where we are. So, one idea at a time. The aid is not the idea, it should support the idea. Again, death by PowerPoint is not going to cut it. Practice before the presentation. It takes practice, it takes timing. You've got to assume that the technology may not work. You've got to have backups for it. So give people time to adjust. One of the biggest complaints we have in licensing courses is that we have PowerPoint set up in which they match what people fill into the blanks in the book. And so now we flip up the item they're supposed to fill into the book, and then the instructor won't shut up. And the instructor keeps talking, and the people are trying to write and don't know what we're talking about. Give them a chance to adjust. Give them a chance to where they can write that thing down. Let them write it down. Make sure everybody's got it, and then you can move on. So using the visuals, get them to adjust, and then finally, do not read from the visual aid. Now, by that I mean, do not read directly from the visual aid. That's what we call talking to the screen. Now, I've been reading the visual aids all morning long. I don't even have a book. But I haven't stood here like this. These are my notes. When I see something come up there on the screen, I know exactly what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to say about it. I know what you're going to be looking at. I know where I'm going to be in a lot of cases, even standing in the room when these things come up. And I'm looking at them to make sure that I'm looking at the same thing, that I'm covering the same thing that you're looking at. So use it as a tool. Use your visual aids as a tool. That's absolutely no problem. All right, thank you. Let's take a look. Oh, the other part about talking directly into the visual aid, the whiteboards are visual aids. You're a visual aid. Everything that the audience can see is a visual aid, or is part of their vision. And we consider in our classrooms, we set up the style that we have 3 different stations. This is one station, this whiteboard. This whiteboard is aimed at that corner. That's on purpose, because I never want to lose sight of that person back there. I always want them to be able to see. I don't ever want to be in a situation where the board is up here and that person is sitting back there and they can't see it. So that's why this is angled. It's angled at that corner. It's that way in every single classroom that we have around the country for the Kaplan Professional Schools. Now, there are other Kaplan parts of the company that have these flat boards up in front. I just personally think that misses the point. This one is aimed back at that corner. Now, when I'm working the board as a visual aid, you may or may not have noticed while we were doing things we liked and things that we didn't like, but I was over here doing the things that we liked, and one is that I never turned my back on you. I turned my back on you once to read directly from the board. I may have walked away from you one other time with my back to you, but by and large, in the 3 hours we've been together, I am keeping myself open so that I can see everyone and that they can see me. When I'm writing on the board, I'm going to keep my shoulders open as much as I can. And when we got to the things we didn't like, see what just happened? If I'm operating in this way, now I've got my back to you. So what I did is I was writing over on this side, then I said when we're going to do things that we didn't like, I took 3 steps in a slide and I wrote the things we didn't like facing this direction. I make sure that I'm not turning my back on anybody and walking away. I can walk away, but I'm maintaining contact, and we can move on over here, take 3 steps in a slide, and I can go back and refer to something here. The other thing that I can do is I can move stations. I can be over here and I can say, let's take a look at what we've got over there, or we need to give the audience time to adjust. I can direct you over to that other station. And then as we're doing that, as we're talking about what's going on over here at that station, I can bring you over here with about 8 steps and refer you to something that we're doing over on this side. And then I can take you right back over there to something that we referred to earlier. And I just covered 4 stations in, 12 seconds or something like that, without wandering around aimlessly. Think about that. How can you use the visuals? How can you use the visuals to change channels, change the station? Especially when we're dealing with the younger generation. My God, they change channels in 1/10 of a second. I watch my kids take a look at television, and it's zzz, zzz, zzz. I go, how did you know you didn't want to watch that? How did you know you didn't want to watch that? Oh, some Disney movie or something. They change stations. And if they got it on for 30 seconds, they don't like it, they're changing the station. Or they change it back and forth. People have their BlackBerries, people have technology, people are texting, they have all sorts of other things that they can do, and they're not used to being focused on one thing at a time. So how are you going to deal with that as a presenter? And understanding that, acknowledging that, is by changing the channel for them. It's by your physical movement and by being able to connect with them so that when you take purposeful steps, they follow along with you. Go ahead, Marianne.
Do you request people turn off their cell phones?
The question is, do we request that people turn off the cell phones? Yes, we do. In our licensing and continuing education courses, in our announcement, it says, please silence laptops and electronic equipment. And then we recommend that every instructor come back after every break and just remind them again. By the way, you were out on the phone and so forth. Let's just check them, turn them off, and that kind of thing. One of the biggest complaints we get is students complaining about other students with the phones. And there are different people instructors who deal with this in different ways. I've seen or I've heard of instructors who will penalize people if their phone goes off, or they'll charge them a fine, or different things. I would not do that if my life depended on it, but there are different ways of handling it. So thanks for asking that.